Good morning and welcome to Morning Coach Today. I am so glad you're with us. Hey, it's JB, and I'm super pumped you're here for this December 5th, 2022, ready to take it on. Obviously, we're getting organized this Monday, ready for a big week. We're getting the month started off. I'm super pumped. This is our planning month, and it's not so much about getting it all done today or getting it all done this week, but about really figuring out what it is that we're going to do to make 2023 the most special year of our lives. I have to tell you, 2022 has been one of the most special years of my life, and I'm really excited to make 2023 even better with you and to share the energy and the ideas that are going to get that done. So what are we going to do? Well, today we're going to talk about commitment level. And, are you really committed to making it the best year that we possibly can? And we're going to go over that and some tips and ideas on that. And then tomorrow, I'm going to introduce you to a new book, Up Your HRV, by Dave Maxfield, one of our members, which is exciting. I always love to have a member get out there and put some ideas and thoughts on paper. And we're going to go over Up Your HRV for a couple weeks and talk a little bit about HRV. Cecil asked for me to do a thing on the iPhone Ultra and how it's working with my HRV. I need to. I have the Aura Ring, the Whoop, the iPhone Ultra, and I need to talk about all those things that I'm using, or the Apple Watch Ultra, and why I use them and how to use them. And I got to tell you, it's finally coming together. My desk is set up. My office is set up. We're getting our painting done. TVs are getting hung. So the retreat center is almost ready where I can just go full content mode. And yes, I will be getting to that and talking about that this month. So you can make some decisions on your own HRV monitoring, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. Is it something you want to do, something you don't want to do? Why would you even want to do this? Well, we're going to talk about that with Dave's book. I'm excited about discussing that. Then Wednesday, we've got the morning routine commitment. Again, talking about morning routine. This is obviously the morning coach, so it's something that's critical that we need to talk about. Then Thursday, I answer your questions. We'll be talking about the system a little bit and where we're at with it. Friday, we've got the critical moment, decision-making, values, and habits. And I've got a note here kind of, are you really committed in those areas like not drinking or exercising or building those habits that we're going to talk about today. And then Saturday, we're going to talk about how your system to stay committed, right? And then on Sunday, we've got obviously spiritual commitment. So I've got a really, really exciting week planned for you, all starting with today and going over some ideas to help you really get committed. And we're going to start off by first discussing a concept that I learned from Sir. For those of you who don't know, Mike Lee Kanarick, somebody I trained with for years and years and years, ex-special forces, and I learned a lot from Mike. And one of the things I learned from him was, if you have discipline, you don't need motivation. And I remember back in the day when we were doing 3-a-days, not 2-a-days. And football, I did 2-a-days. Training with Sir, we did 3-a-days, where we'd come in at boot camp at 4 in the morning, do a workout, come back at 10:30 in the morning, and do training, and then come back at 8 o'clock at night and do another boot camp session. And I remember how hard that was. Like, it was so difficult. It was just, it got me in the best shape of my life, but it was really hard to do. And I wasn't really motivated to do it. It wasn't like, oh, I'm so motivated to do this. In fact, as you got into it, you're like, this kind of sucks, right? And you wanted to get rid of it. And so you stop doing it. And so eventually you just kind of burn out on it. And that's why, I learned all that time ago that discipline is more important than motivation, or equal, I would say more important, because if you're disciplined, you're going to show up and you're going to do it. And we would show up, and if he would kick people out, and every year he'd kick somebody out. Luckily, I never got kicked out all those back in the day when he used to be ornery. But we used to, it was very tremendous, hard training, and it was proven that if you're disciplined and you showed up, you really didn't need to be motivated. You just did it, and you made it happen, and you got to work on it. And it's the same thing with our plans and the things that we're going to talk about this week. Wednesday, we're going into the morning routine. Are you disciplined enough to do it? I can tell you, 2022 has been one of my best years ever with a lot of lack of discipline, and not a lot of it my choice. I had to make a lot of changes, right? So now the excuses are going away, having the gym, the sauna, the retreat center, being able to build everything up here, get it in place is the game plan. And then obviously going to my pilot's license and working on an airplane and then getting the place back in Florida next year. That's kind of the, my plan is to get that organized and to be disciplined in doing that. And I have to do that. I've got to work, right? I've got to have the discipline to do that. And there's some things that I didn't have the discipline this year, and I'll admit it. And it's time to get the commitment level where it needs to be. So that's where I'm talking about working and getting organized within the structure of our system. Are you ready to make this the best year yet? Are you ready? Are you really ready to get committed to say, okay, I'm going to be disciplined. I'm going to do the things that I need to do on a daily basis that are going to lead me to the life that I'm looking to live. I mentioned it when I was talking about the O.J. Simpson and the white vehicle the other day, right? And I was talking about how, that was in one of Tony Robbins' books, and it was 10 years after the event. It's obviously 30 years later. And thinking about something like 9/11, for example, years and years and years ago, but for some of us, it seems like yesterday, what can we get committed to that we could have done, in that time period that would have changed our life? What can we get committed to now? What are the things we're going to do? Think about COVID. COVID's been a couple years. What could we have done differently over those 2 years that would have radically changed our life? And that's what I want to be working on this year and having fun. Enjoying this entire process is what it's about, and really getting organized and getting clear is what we're doing. And that's what you should be doing. That's why I said this doesn't happen in a day. I'm talking about kind of the mission that we're going to be on, and I'm sitting here talking about, okay, the retreat center is coming together. Now what's the next step? The next step for me is, okay, getting a pilot's license and then getting back down to Florida and seeing where do I want to land down there, and then getting that dream of mine of flying back and forth just whenever, kind of working and executing. And I think, again, when I talk about planning and I talk about building systems and organization and structure, I'm a great example of it. Because you can see I've got to take and do a marathon. Like, I've got to really work this one part of it right now to get it organized and structured. And that's what I'm doing. I'm getting the home retreat center, which is the foundational piece of the business, in place so that when we roll around next year this time, hopefully, we'll see how things go. I'm ready to start looking for some Florida property. And I'm over, I've got an airplane over in the hangar, and I've been practicing a little bit. And that's what I'm saying about getting yourself where your vision is of what you're working on. Understanding that we can't obviously sometimes accomplish all of that in a small amount of time. Remember the old adage that, we think we can do so much in a small amount of time. And the truth is we overestimate what we can do in a small amount of time. We really do. We overestimate, like, man, I could do all this stuff in a year. But we underestimate what we can do in a long amount of time, and that's over years, and that's kind of how I've built my life is, not overestimating it, just allowing it to happen by executing on a plan and by just taking it step by step, 1% improvement. And all of a sudden you have these massive shifts where I'm talking about an airplane and now going back down to Florida and getting my place down there. So that's working a plan, and that's, and it takes organization, it takes focus, it takes a lot of pieces to make this happen, and that's why we're here together. That's why I'm here to help you and to support you in this process, because it's about getting clear and then putting the steps together and allowing them to work. Sometimes serendipity occurs, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes you get slapped in the face, and you're like, what is going on? And a lot of that has to do with you getting course corrected because the greater good is conspiring for you. But also a lot of it is having the discipline to stick with the things that you need to do on a day in and day out basis. And we need to support you in figuring out what those things are. Okay. So that's the thing. We want to get organized and get focused. Now we also understand that we've got to watch the idea of getting everything perfect. I'm one of those. Okay. And that's why I mentioned before last week how, my world's been so upside down because of my OCD. Like, I like everything perfect. In fact, I'm looking at my board right now and there's a little bit of dust on it and it drives me crazy. I got to have my cleaning girls come in because there's dust everywhere. We've been working on cleaning because we had floors sanded and drywall put up and major construction. And slowly but surely, we're getting rid of the dust, right? We're slow. Almost all of it's gone. But, if I see a little piece, it drives me crazy. That's just me. So I have to be careful of trying to have everything perfect before I make my moves. And that's the other thing I want you to be cautious of is we don't need perfection within the framework of our systems. Okay. We don't need perfection in the framework of our commitment level. Again, if you're disciplined, you're going to do it whether it's perfect or not. And that's where motivation comes in, where it's like, okay, I'm not motivated because I don't have all the right things. I see this a lot in writers that I coach. It's like, well, I don't have the right setup. I don't have the right writing area, and that includes me, right? I don't have the right notepad. I don't have the right pen. And that just stops you from moving forward. So just recognize the fact that not everything's going to be perfect. And it might get there. Like, I'm getting there. Like, I'm building an environment of perfection for myself, but it doesn't have to be perfect in order to achieve the things you want to do. Okay? The next thing I want to talk about is that it starts in the morning. Now, we're going to get into this on Wednesday really intent because I believe that it's really important that we start understanding how powerful the mornings are. I have lacked a discipline, and I'm the first person to raise my hand. I was getting into my meditation. It was going great. I was at the lake house, the small one in Fish Lake, and there wasn't a lot of work, and it was easy to do. There wasn't clutter. There wasn't dust. We were going to get there. If you remember right, I was going to fly to Florida and have that place rebuilt, and I would actually be in Florida right now instead of, I got a curveball, right? God smiles here. And this curveball occurred, and it's been great. But I've also got off track on my morning routine. And again, it starts in the morning. What are the things that you're going to do every day that are consistently going to get you to where you need to be? And putting that plan together is something that I'm working on currently, to be able to have an airplane, be able to, fly down to Florida and be able to have the retreat center and everything operating smoothly. It's a lot of moving pieces. And so you've got to have that morning dialed in. And we're going to get into that Wednesday. So just make sure you're here Wednesday. I'm going to talk about some tips and ideas on you establishing an amazing morning routine. The other thing I want to talk about is we had Huberman, and I brought that clip on about dopamine. And we've been studying dopamine. We're studying HRV. Again, we're not doctors here. And in fact, Dave is a lawyer who we're going to do his book on HRV. And I think that even helps a little bit because he's a little bit of a cynic. He's into personal protection. And so it's like he's got to be cynical when it comes to a lot of study and stuff. So that's good. But with that being said, we're not doctors and we're not trying to be, but there are specific things in research and health and development that you can find. Huberman's been putting some great stuff out from Stanford. And we talk about the idea of the dopamine being the reward of the activity. And I really want you to focus on that this year. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that Coachcast, please do. It's a few weeks ago. You'll see dopamine and Huberman and anxiety. And really we discuss the idea of, activity and how we get the reward. The reward comes from actually doing the activity, and you get the dopamine not from the completion of the activity. And so many people are striving for the completion activity, but they never get there, so they don't get that dopamine reward. And if we can start to get in the habit of appreciating the work that's going to get you there, you can literally get a dopamine reward. And that's just so powerful in productivity, for personal productivity, okay? So that's really critical. As we're looking at this commitment level, again, make sure the discipline is what is being rewarded mentally. You're saying, wow, great job. Wow, you're getting it done. Wow, you're doing it. Not the carrot at the end, but actually rewarding yourself through the process, okay? And the next step is, this is a time. Like, I always talk about December, and we get excited about it, and a lot of my coaches yell at me because it's like, well, what if somebody joins in February? What if somebody joins in June? How do they integrate in this system? Well, we're building systems to help with that, but it doesn't matter. You're here in the right time, right? You're here in December. And this is a time, to burn the ships. And if you ever heard about the legend of Cortez, he came from Spain, landed in South America, and, they were getting off the ships, and he wanted commitment from his people, right? So they said supposedly they turned around and Cortez ordered the ships burned. Like, we're committed to this land. We're committed to this goal. We're committed to this mission of coming here as conquistadors and taking over this country, right? And how do they do that? They burnt the ships. And that's commitment, And there's sometimes when you got to burn the ships. Like, you got to just say, okay, I've had enough. And sometimes it's when you hit the low of the low, right? It's like, I've had enough of this bullshit. I'm going to do it. And other times it's like, man, I just need to do it, right? And you get the commitment level where you need to be. And you burn those ships and you go after it. And that's what I want to support you with this year. I really want that drive to go do something really incredibly special, and do it for you. Do it for your family. Do it for the loved ones that you have, and find that inner energy so you can have the discipline to go do what's needed. And we're going to help you with that. All right, so let's get off to a great week. I love you. Let's get started with discipline. Let's work on our plans. What is that mission? What is it looking like so we can go after it? Okay, I love you. Go do it to it. And I'll be back with more right here tomorrow on morningcoach.com. We're going to get into the book, Up Your HRV. So go do it to it. I love you. You made it to the end. That is fantastic. And you know what is fantastic? Right now is the time to join our coaching program. You're going to find this award-winning, amazing coaching program over at morningcoach.com. Is a great way to get some energy and to stay organized and on top of things. Can't wait to start working with you. Just head on over to morningcoach.com, click the Join Now button and get started. And literally, we can be working together immediately. Immediately, you start listening to all those wonderful coach casts and start picking up where you've missed and grab the planner and get organized. And by the way, get involved in the belt system. It is something that can really, really help you get clear and help you manifest that best life that you're looking for.